Thanks for joining me today. I appreciate you being with me. So, we're en route for a good discussion. The discussion is surrounding how do I effectively navigate how much taxes I pay in retirement? Okay, and it's something that a lot of people don't think about until they actually get to retirement, and then April comes and they wind up paying taxes, and they're like, oh my gosh, I kind of thought I was done with this whole tax thing when I retired, but uh, I'm paying as much taxes now as I was then when I was working. There is a way for you to effectively withdraw. It's called your optimal withdrawal strategy. A way for you to effectively withdraw money out of your accounts to try to lower your taxes as much as possible. That's what we're going to be talking about. Okay. Now, before we do, like, comment, subscribe. Without further ado, we'll just get straight into it. So we've been on this journey with Mike and Rachel. And those of you who have been here since the beginning of the series, I appreciate you. Those of you who haven't seen the other videos, no worries. You can check them out. But Mike and Rachel, we started when they were 10 years out from retirement. Now they're 6 years. And this question got brought up. Hey, Tyler, when I retire, what accounts do I pull money out of first to live off of, and then second, and then third? Like, how do we angle the money, and are we pulling from one of them, and then the second and third, or a combination of them? What does that look like? Well, it's a great question, and it's something that you want to start thinking about, because depending on what accounts you pull from will dictate how much taxes you pay. Okay? Let's get into it. This should look familiar. This is Mike and Rachel's balance sheet. And we're going to talk about this in the lens of asset location versus asset allocation. And we have a video on this. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It'll also be linked at the end. But asset location versus asset allocation. So asset location is the specific accounts. Okay? So like if I ask Mike and Rachel, hey, where is your cash located? They're going to say, hey, my savings account. That's a location. Or if I ask them, where is your investments located? Mike is going to say, well, it's in my 401k. And Rachel's going to say in my IRA, right? Those are locations. And depending on which location we're talking about, all of them are taxed differently. For instance, these three accounts are, if done correctly, tax-free. So when Mike and Rachel pulls money out of these three accounts in retirement, they're going to be paying zero taxes on any money, any growth that they pull out. If done correctly, qualified, it's going to be pulled out tax-free. Now these two, it's quite the opposite. These two, when Mike and Rachel go to pull money out of their 401k and IRA, they're paying income taxes out of these two accounts. I know what you're thinking. Oh my gosh, I thought I was going to be done with income taxes when I stepped away from my job. Unfortunately, no. If they're pre-tax accounts, you will be paying income taxes on that money too. Okay, and then these three accounts are different altogether. They are taxed in a different tax system. It's called capital gains taxes. Yes, even your savings account. Yeah, you probably don't notice the taxes you pay on your savings because it grows so little, but you are paying taxes on your savings account, the growth in there. Okay, so we got three different tax systems: tax-free, income taxes, capital gains taxes, and this is a better visual. Okay, take a little mental snapshot of this. This is the three legs of the stools: income taxes, capital gains taxes, and tax-free. And this is Mike and Rachel's corresponding accounts. Okay. So we're going to come back here. So don't be nervous if you love this picture. I do too. We're going to come back to it and be able to stare at it. But let's bounce over to the asset allocation. Hey, 401k, IRA, investment account, HSA, these are the locations, but what is positioned inside them? What is the asset allocation? This is what can be positioned inside all of those accounts. Each of these colored boxes is what Mike and Rachel and you as an investor get to put in your 401k, in your investment account. These are your options. And I know this is busy. Bear with me. 3 minutes, you're going to understand this thing. So this shows the returns of every investment that you and I can throw our money in for the past 15 years. And it's from highest return to the lowest. Okay. And I'll even describe each of these investments. Real estate, you're probably familiar with that. Mid cap, this is middle-sized companies in the United States. You can invest in middle-sized companies. Okay. Small cap, this is small companies in the United States. Think startups. You can invest in some of the startups and they might hit or they might flop. They are, well, the past 100 years, they're actually the highest returning investment, but they're also the most risky, right? So risk return type of scenario. International, emerging. So you can invest even in companies overseas in emerging countries. So they're on the come up. Or you can invest in countries that are overseas, they're international, but they're developed. So they're not on the come up anymore. They've made it. They're mature. They're established. Commodities, think hard assets like gold, silver, precious metals, oil, that sort of thing. Large cap. So this one's an important one. When people say, hey, what is the stock market getting in terms of returns this year? Usually they're quoting this navy blue box, the large cap. And that's the S&P 500. It's the 500 largest companies in the United States. Think Apple, Amazon, Tesla, Microsoft, Nvidia, Walmart, Lowe's, Home Depot. Like those companies you and I know the name of, they're this navy blue box. Okay. Fixed income, that's a fancy word for bonds. You might not know what bonds is, even though you probably have some in your 401k. Bonds is, I'm going to give an example. Let's say Apple needs money for the next iPhone 20. Okay. And they're like, hey, this iPhone 20, to do the research and development, the cost of goods, the marketing for this iPhone 20, it's going to cost us $50 million. They're thinking, hey, how do we come up with $50 million out of thin air to fund this iPhone 20? They go to the public. They say, hey, Tyler, hey, Mike, hey, Rachel, hey, everyone, we want $50 million. You give us money and we will pay you back that money plus some interest. And I say, hey, I don't have 50 million bucks, but I have 1,000. I'll give you 1,000. And Mike and Rachel do the same, and their neighbors and their neighbors. And Apple has now $50 million. They build this iPhone, they sell it, and they wind up doing sales of 150 million. And of that 150 million, they shave off 50 million of it, give it back to us, the investor, with some interest, and they keep the 100 million roughly in profits that they made. I know what you're thinking. Hey, do companies actually do that? Yes, all of them do. It's the people at these companies, and it doesn't have to be companies, right? It can be entities, a government, it can be anything. They're businessmen, they're smart. That's how they come up with some quick profits. So that $1,000 that I put up to Apple, that was a bond. Okay, that was a bond that I made with Apple. Bond is fixed income, same exact thing. And cash is cash. Now, there's one colored box that I skipped over. That white box, diversified portfolio. So you can see every one of these colored boxes bounces everywhere, depending on the year. It's like a yo-yo. But that white box, it's kind of like the steady hand, right? It just camps out in the middle. And it never hits home runs, but it never strikes out, right? It camps out in the middle. And the reason why is because it owns a piece of all the colored boxes above it and a piece of all the colored boxes below it. Okay? That concept I'll talk at length about in another video. But quiz question, what do you think are the 3 most common investments that people hold in their accounts? Cash, green box, fixed income blue box, and that navy blue box that I was talking about, large companies in the US. Those are the three most common. So looking deeper at those, stocks is that navy blue box, US large cap stocks, S&P 500. That is the left. Bonds is fixed income. They're the same exact thing. That's the blue box. And then cash is that green box that we were talking about. So this shows the returns of stocks. The past 100 years is 10.1. After inflation, it's 7. And after taxes, it's 6. So after inflation and taxes, the returns of stocks get you 6, which is pretty good. I mean, some people's income don't even go up by 6% every single year. And in stocks, you can just dump your money in, not do anything, wake up 20 years later, look at it, and it went up by, on average, 6% every single year. That's pretty good after inflation and taxes. Now, bonds after inflation and taxes is break even. It's 0.4. And cash is negative, almost 1%. Okay, you lose money by having it in cash. Now, I know what you're thinking at this point. Okay, what Mike and Rachel need to do is just direct everything towards stocks. That's the most bang for their buck. It is, but there's one thing on here that is not displayed, which is risk reward. Stocks are also the most risky investment. Okay, so we want a good amount of Mike and Rachel's money position in stocks, but we need money in bonds and cash to weather any storm while the stocks are not doing well. Okay, which on average happens once every 4 years, the stocks are not doing as well, 4 to 5 years. Now, how much we need in bonds and cash to weather the storm? Well, what's the biggest storm that we've seen in the history of the stock market? It was World War II. The market went down for 61 months straight, or 5 years. Okay, so we need 5 years worth of Mike and Rachel's retirement income in bonds and cash to weather. So let's look at this. So for Mike and Rachel, so we've talked about asset location, the different accounts, and then the allocation, stocks, bonds, cash, that sort of thing. Let's look at what is the most optimal withdrawal strategy for Mike and Rachel. And your advisor should have the ability to do this. Check this out. So this is liquidation strategy. And I hit this little button and it says, hey, if they are thoughtful about what accounts they pull money out of at which time, they can generate an extra $1 million in value gained just by being thoughtful about this today. Okay, and what this value gained is coming from, by being thoughtful about which accounts they pull money out of, they're paying less in taxes, which means more money is in their pocket. And that's where this extra million's coming from. So this says, hey, pull 45% of your income when you retire, and you need money to live off of your retirement income, pull 45% out of your retirement accounts. Qualified just means retirement. So 401k IRA. That's that first leg of the stool that we were looking at. Okay, and 55% pull from the second leg of the stool, the capital gains leg. Non-qualified means not retirement accounts, like savings accounts, investment account, those sorts of things. So pull 45% from this leg right here, okay? And then the other 55% pull from this leg. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why is it so specific? Why 45, 55? Why not just 100% from one of the legs? Well, what's happening is the plan says, hey, pull 45% of Mike and Rachel's retirement income from income tax type of accounts. And then before they bounce up to the 22% tax bracket, the biggest tax jump in the income tax system right now, instead of having to pay additional 10% on each dollar, bounce over to this leg and pay 15, so they don't have to pay 22. And then before they jump up to 20, have money in tax-free, so they pay 0 on the rest. So they're bouncing from leg to leg on this stool, so they never hit any of the higher tax brackets. Pretty cool, huh? So this is where you can really be thoughtful about how much taxes you pay in retirement, because where you land in terms of taxes is dictated by how much money you pull out of each account. Okay, so you can have control over it versus when you were making income at your job, you really didn't have as much control. Now you have a lot more. And I'll take this one step further through an example. Now, tying asset location and asset allocation together, check this out. So remember stocks, right? Stocks, the highest appreciating asset. So 10.1 after inflation it's 7. After taxes it's 6. Well, guess what? If we had the stocks positioned in the tax-free leg of the stool, the third leg, then it doesn't go from 7 to 6. It stays 7 because you don't have to pay any taxes on your growth. Talk with your advisor on it because it is very important how much taxes you pay in retirement, and your net returns can be elevated just by being thoughtful around where you have things positioned. Okay, so hopefully this was helpful. Stay tuned for the next one. Mike and Rachel will be 5 years out from retirement, and that'll be a good one. If you have any questions, comment down below. And if you haven't seen the prior videos in the series, go check them out. Till next time.